hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. And let's start with the Daily Nation. A quick look at how the front page is looking like. There we go. So let's start at the top right there. Why the Likoni channel is a death trap. Why Likoni channel is a death trap is the piece that has been given prominence on page 9 of the Daily Nation. We'll be getting to that in not too long. But also looking at what is also featured on the front page of the Daily Nation right there at the header. Debt repayment holiday, as Kenya has been granted a 6-month debt repayment break on the 32.9 billion Kenya shillings, a story that has been featured on the back page of the Daily Nation. A break that also has seen Tanzania, Uganda and Burundi come into after they took this Paris club freeze that was announced last year in May. We'll be getting to the details of that in not too long. But looking at the main story here on the front page of the Daily Nation, why Uhuru's backyard is restless. Why Uhuru's backyard is restless when it comes to succession politics. Pressure continues to mount on President Kenyatta to name his political heir. State House race. In brief, it has been captioned that supporters of the handshake now fear that their political careers could be on the chopping block because of growing support for Deputy President William Ruto in the region. We'll be giving you the details of this particular story in not too long, but also in regards to the retirement of former CJ, that is Maraga, and his successor Mwilu takes up the mantle at the judiciary, and she's expected to hold the office for at least 120 days as the JSC, such as for a replacement or a successor rather for the CJ. And when it comes to teachers, it is now said that the new diploma rule spells doom for P1 teachers, with over 300,000 teachers being disenfranchised after the minimum qualification for employment has been raised to diploma level for primary education. Details of all that coming up in not too long. But a quick look at what the front page of the People's Daily has for us. Let me just show you how it's looking like this morning. Yes, there we go. We start there at the top. Raila, rotate presidency for national unity. Those are his words as he as the opposition leader said that world over multi-ethnic communities have found a way of including everyone when it comes to leadership of any particular country, as long as they ensure equitable distribution of the national cake. And pictured next to him, we have the picture of the deputy president saying that this is the new face of deputy president rather confounds opponents. We'll be giving you the details of all these stories in not too long. Again, the story in regards to the successor for the CJ has also been given prominence on the front page of the People's Daily. But the main story is in regards to the broke treasury gets 32.9 billion debt suspension. Similar story that as here on the front page of the Daily Nation, the 6-month reprieve that the country has been given when it comes to the repayment of 32.9 billion Kenya shillings. In brief, that is what the Daily Nation and the People's Daily have for us on their respective front pages.
Now, let us focus on what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning. Let me just give you a sneak peek. Quite a telling picture there. Hands up, you know. That is retired CJ there, David Maraga. And high stakes in the hunt for the next CJ. Some of the names, or rather some of the potential candidates that have been named to succeed Maraga as a CJ is Acting Chief Justice, that is Philomena Mwilu, as well as Supreme Court Judge Njoki Ndongo, Court of Appeal President Oko, Supreme Court Judge Smokin Wanjala, as well as Supreme Court Judge Isaac Lenaola, as well as Appellate Judge Martha Koome. We have the former Attorney General, Githum Wigai, and lawyer Abdikadir Mohammed. The high stakes in hunt for the next CJ. That's a story that has been given prominence on the front page of the Standard this morning. Now, there's a story, a gruesome murder that took the state by surprise. Both the young and old. Now post-mortem reveals the horror of the Kiambu family murders. We'll be giving you details of this. But now, what we have from the autopsy report indicate that, rather reveals that the stab wounds were similar in length. Yesterday, we had the son, the surviving son, and the girlfriend appearing in court. And so much has been said, especially on social media, in regard to what people are speculating might have been behind the reasoning of the suspect, the first suspect, rather the main suspect in this murder of the Kiambu family murders. Remember, this family, as per the reports from the police or rather authorities, indicate issues of murder. Several members over the years, dating back 2014, have been dying in mysterious ways. Is this a trend, or is it someone pulling some strings somewhere? Is the son guilty or not? Well, we are not going to discuss matters in court per se, because that would be sub judice, but we'll just be giving you details of what is happening and the developments in regard to that issue. Now, talking about startups and businesses, now it seems that Kenya has become a graveyard of startups. Why? Because of corruption. These details will be coming up in not too long, and that's what has been given prominence in the front page of the Standard, including matters of politics. Raila, why we need rational leadership. Now, ODM leader says the presidency is a sensitive issue because of Kenya's multi-ethnic heritage. Appears to back calls for different communities to have a turn at leadership. That and so much more will be coming up in not too long in the headlines.
Now let's get to those details that we had promised you, and we start with this particular story concerning the fate of teachers, and this is over 300,000 teachers across the country. So uncertainty continues to swirl over the fate of 300,000 P1 teachers. So the government has raised the bar for qualifications with the teacher training colleges, which are set to take place as of this May, to just make sure that these teachers are diploma level trained for the new curriculum. So now the fate of these 300,000 teachers is just very uncertain, and this particular P1 teachers, they are the primary certificate holders, and these are the teachers that are qualified to teach primary schools. So as of May of this year, all teachers are going to be required to have a minimum of a diploma in primary teacher education, known as DPTE, in order to teach in primary schools. And when at least the writer of this particular story tried to reach the principal secretary to just get a comment or two in regards to this new development that has been put forth, that their calls went unanswered. But looking at the state of the situation is that the last batch of P1 teachers who are already in training, the trainees are expected to complete their studies this coming March, and the teacher training colleges have already started recruiting the first cohort for this diploma, for the diploma level that is required. So they are going to just continue on with their studies as opposed to getting into the industry directly. And it is said that this diploma will run for a period of 3 years, and they are expected to have, or rather to stand a higher chance of employment once they graduate with this diploma when it comes to teaching, and more so in line with the new curriculum. So for as of now, over 300,000 teachers are unsure of their way forward, given that this is the qualification that they have been having, and moving forth they are not sure whether they will be retained by the ministry or they would be let go. So you can read more of that on page 10 of the Daily Nation.
Now, we prepared a report on what is happening between the TSC and NAT, and we have some details. How about we have a listen in? Well, it seems we have not queued that up, but we're going to be giving you further details on what is happening between the TSC and NAT as we continue with this course of, the broadcasting as far as in the headlines is concerned. Now, I take you to a story that we had highlighted here, and this is a high stakes for the next CJ. Now, plenty is at stake in Kenya's search for the next CJ. I've already noted the numbers, or rather the potential candidates to replace him here, and he left quite a legacy. And when he was leaving, he said, Maraga urges the judicial staff to fight on as he exits the stage. Now, the highlights of the CJ Emeritus is that he established a court in all counties. He annulled the 2017 presidential election. He also went on to introduce a digital filing of cases. He recommended the dissolution of parliament that threw the spanners into the works in as far as legislature is concerned, recommended the president to appoint a tribunal to remove the former Supreme Court Judge Jackton Ojwang from the office, returned the robes and the wigs to courtrooms. Remember when Mutunga was the one at the helm? Well, this was discarded, but when Maraga took office, well, this is something that came back, or rather had a return. Now, the court also abolished mandatory death sentence. He also received the Chanchinio Bagwards, that is CB Madan Award, and was named the ICJ Jurist of the Year in 2017 by the New Africa as the sixth most influential person in Africa. We are detailing the legacy of the former Chief Justice there, David Maraga. Here are sounds and pictures of how his tenure at the helm of the judicial system has been.
Kenani Maraga ascended to the helm of the judiciary on the 19th of October 2016 after his predecessor, Dr. William Mutunga, went on voluntary early retirement.
I, David Kenani Maraga, Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, do swear in the name of the Almighty God.
His tenure in office as the 14th Chief Justice of independent Kenya goes down in the annals of history as one that was characterized by many firsts. The first being him presiding over the nullification of the 2017 presidential election and ordering a fresh election.
That the presidential election held on 8th August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void.
He was among one of the 4 Supreme Court judges to support a re-election. The ruling made history as the first presidential petition in Africa to be overturned. And that would mark the beginning of Maraga's perceived frosty relations with the executive. One of his many decisions that also irked the legislature was an advisory opinion to the president to dissolve parliament for failing to enact the 2/3 gender law. The matter is now subject of a court battle. Towards the end of his term, Maraga found himself at loggerheads with the executive yet again over a proposal by the Building Bridges Initiative to have a judiciary ombudsman appointed by the president with the approval of the Senate. Maraga was of the opinion that the judiciary ombudsman be appointed by the Judicial Service Commission to avoid conflicting decisions. Not one to shy away from speaking his mind, he once faulted the executive for reportedly disrespecting court orders in the case of appointment of 41 judges to the judiciary.
The president has no residual legal power to question or reject the names recommended to him by HSC, but to appoint them.
Some of his key achievements was the launch of the e-filing system and digitization of court processes. The move did not only improve efficiency and accountability, but reduce the time taken to file and serve a case. Maraga leaves office upon the attainment of 70 years, but his decisions will be documented for generations to come. Caroline Kamar reporting for Channel 1 News.
All right. Now, before we get to move on to this particular piece here on the People's Daily, toxic working environments. I'll be giving you what this particular piece has captured here, but for those of you who are wondering, Samajaro Akwapi. Samjaro.
Hey, what's up?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Everything all right?
Fashionably late?
No. People are still trying to get the hang of it as far as driving is concerned.
Yeah.
So just causing some unnecessary inconveniences on our roads. Nonetheless,
you're here.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Hey, how are you?
Good to see you, Sir Samuel.
So Sam,
please, let's not go out.
We're doing this today.
She started it.
She started it.
I'd forgotten.
Lady Jane, right?
Yes.
Pass my best to Lady who again?
Bamsworth.
Lady Bamsworth. Now, I've got the front page of the Star with me this Tuesday, and of course, highlighted on the front page is the political intrigues that are characterizing the year 2021 so far. And as Eva told, the headline of this particular daily is anything to go by. Now, Uhuru, that is the president, has handed over hands Raila and Musalia a 2022 chance over Ruto. Yeah. That's the headline, the Star this morning. And apparently, Kenyatta is working to ensure that the NASA trio remains together ahead of the 2022 general election. And this comes even in the wake of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga yesterday saying that maybe time has come for the country to consider another presidency as opposed to a Kikuyu or a Kalenjin one. He actually went ahead to say that it's not your fault, the choice of where you were born and who your parents are, but this is Kenya and it belongs to all of us. So that story is on pages 4 to 5 of the Star this morning. Also highlighted on the front page, don't let politicians ruin Kenya. That was Maraga's exit call as he handed over the instruments of power to the now acting Chief Justice, who has been his deputy, that is Philomena Mwilu. And all this happened at the steps of the Supreme Court yesterday in front of family, friends, and fellow members of the jury, fellow members of the judiciary. Okay, so that story is on page 8 of the Star this morning. Also highlighted on the front page, I am not in fight with Uhuru over my BBI letter. Page 7 will tell you what Irongo Kangata, the Murang'a County Senator, has to say in as far as the reaction of the president to his letter is concerned. Now, autopsy report reveals that stab wounds were similar length. This is in as far as the probe into the Kiambu murder is concerned. And pictured there is one of the suspects, Lawrence Simon Warunge, in a Kiambu court yesterday. COB now warns of debt crisis if borrowing trend does not change. And as far as opinion pieces are concerned, Michelle Waikenda says that prepare for a year of political theatrics. That is the front page of the Star for you this Tuesday.
All right, now before we get back to what the different dailies have to say this morning, I want us to look at this particular story on the People's Daily. Yes, it's a People's Daily. And it talks of how there are some companies that are having or coming up with some rather toxic rules of operation in their particular organizations. And this is in regards to bathroom breaks. So this is happening in China and Beijing, as most of these companies have been listed. So in China, there's a company that has put a timer on all bathroom doors so that when you are going in there, you're supposed to be very straight to the point, quote unquote, straight to the point, very brief. If the timer lapses and you're not yet out, the door automatically opens. Okay? Another company is fining its employees for visiting the bathroom more than once a day. And you are fined an equivalent of 3,000 Kenya shillings for every extra trip to the bathroom that you take in a day. Another one. They came under fire for forcing their staff to wear diapers to improve company productivity. You don't have to visit the bathroom. You have a diaper on. All right. Another one. They came up with a brilliant idea. It is a tech firm that installed smart seat cushions to monitor workforce, to monitor how long you are seated on that particular seat. So if you don't meet the average time that is required for you to be sitting and be productive, there are consequences to be faced. And a final one. They apparently put slanting toilet seats to make lavatory visits very uncomfortable. So you cannot sit there for more than 2 minutes or so because the seat, as it normally would be straight, it's now slanted. So you have to be very brief. And, you know, because they are complaining that so many people, when they visit the bathroom, that is where they go to read the news and get up to date with their social media, as opposed to being very brief, to the point, and back to productive office hours. Yeah. Toxic relationships that we're living in 2020.
Those ones you gotta leave. How can you charge me for using the bathroom? Surely.
I mean, and you're only supposed to go to the washroom once a day.
What if I'm having a tummy ache?
You'll be charged $3 grand every extra
Or I
visit.
use a diaper, right? Yikes.
You know, the rate at which they use the bathroom is suspect. Like
I mean, and there's even a timer on the bathroom door.
Exactly.
So if it lapses, the door automatically opens.
Have you ever had the need? Okay. No, it's just that this comment may otherwise come up as or be interpreted as rather bougie, but it's not. How many of us have a thing for private bathrooms, even in your own house?
I totally understand that.
You do?
I do. Oh my goodness.
You
And
100%
let me tell you,
understand.
there was actually that conversation on social media where there was a lady who actually posted saying, is it just me or is there anyone out there who has a separate bathroom from their partner in their house? Like you have your own bathroom, your partner has their own bathroom.
I'm just throwing it
I
out there.
totally understand the situation.
And now that Jane, you throw that spanner into the works, I'm one of those people. A bathroom and Zayn are sensitive, and even in the wake of COVID, I learned quite a number of lessons.
Question.
But
Nina washwa. I got a wet
Kuna meme niliona. Why are you blaming me for coming to the bathroom immediately after me?
Oh yeah.
that also makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Don't
that
blame
also
me.
makes sense. I mean, bathrooms are a sensitive issue.
Yes.
They've
The
always
toilet
been.
seats being a little bit too warm.
Being a little bit.
Too warm. Someone was seated on it, right?
And then you can imagine even at the workplace, you're also being monitored. I mean,
You know, I've never understood people who actually go for a number 2 in other people's houses.
Now that's something.
I've never understood.
That is a no. Then maybe in the estate there's no water.
I have never understood.
Then you end up getting stuck there for a while.
But people could
Contemplating
be.
your decisions.
Hey, people. People could be having their breakfast. So let's give them a break. Let's just give them a break. But we totally get where that story is coming from, Jane. And some of these concerns are valid. So in the event you feel that you're under the bandwagon of those people who probably prefer separate bathrooms or do not like sharing bathrooms,
it's not bougie
or
behavior.
who are not comfortable with people using their bathroom, all these thoughts are valid. It's a way of life.
And we cannot use the bathroom, both of us. Please note.
And don't blame me.
What do you mean, both of us? Like at the same time? That's creepy.
Moving on. Ray.
Rotational presidency. Okay, Ray, you want to go first?
No.
No, take it, Sam.
Before I talk about rotational presidency and the fact that this could be something that the country is considering, not at a macro level, but hush tones, uku chini chini. And this has been informed by the sentiments that have been exchanged by the political class over the past 7 days, that maybe time has come for the country to consider a presidency from another region as opposed to a Kikuyu or a Kalenjin one. There are those that argue that this could be a move to fight the Deputy President William Ruto in the wake of his ambition to clinch the top seat come 2022. Others say, you know what, being a country that plays host to a majority of tribes, I'm talking about 42, then maybe this conversation is valid. So, best practice, how do we benchmark? Where do we get the lessons or draw the lessons from? That story is on page 4 to 5 of the Star this morning, talking about countries that have had rotational presidency and how that has worked out for them this far. Captured here on the 5th page of the Star, we've got countries that practice rotational presidency. And the first one to be highlighted is Switzerland, where the Federal Council elects one of its members to sit as president for 1-year term. And council has reps from Liberal Party, Swiss Social Democratic Party, as well as the Swiss People's Party and the Swiss Christian Democratic Party. Okay, so it's literally they sit, they agree, the Federal Council sits and elects one person who sits as president for 1 year. Sawa. Now let's move to Burundi, just here close by, and they made an agreement where the presidency is interchanged or exchanges between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Okay, same with the Comoros, where the presidency rotates among the three islands of Grande Comore, Moheli, and Ajuhan. Eugenia nimeuma practice, by the way. Now, nimeuma practice Eugenia mwisho. So we've got also countries that have tried this mode but otherwise failed. We've got Nigeria that pronounced in 1994 under a decree number 3 that it was never incorporated in the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, that the president and the vice president are chosen interchangeably from the south and the north. So they attempted, but it did not work. Same case with right here in Tanzania, where they attempted to have a presidency rotate between mainland and Zanzibar. However, the plan did not take off and works now at a party level. So these are some of the countries that have been practicing rotational presidency, those that have attempted but otherwise failed, and also now capturing, or basically capturing, the voices of other leaders locally who could be for the idea of a rotational presidency right here in the country. Is it a time, or is it an idea whose time has come? Well, as we keep saying right here in the media, only time will tell. Right, ladies?
Absolutely.
Indeed. And talking about time, it's that time we take a commercial break. But when we return, we're going to be looking at what is making it, headlines in the political scene. There's a report prepared by our news desk that is going to just put the matters into perspective, including what Sam has just highlighted as rotational presidency. Are we ready, and who can we emulate? Take a short break. We'll be right back.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nikaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal,
Haya,
mali yako
tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the African Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Nichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel.
Don't you dare.
Me.
Oh, please. Let the dead bury. They are dead, right?
You're running around. Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, mpige nini?
Good morning, glad to have you on board. You're still watching In the Headlines and Good Morning Kenya. Now, before we took that short break, we were talking about, rotational presidency. And on page 15 of the Standard this morning on the opinion piece, the question is, do you agree with Uhuru that it is time for other Kenyan tribes to rule? I'd want to read what Mr. Okello, who is a Nyando MP, had to say in regard to that before we give you our report on what is happening on the political scene. Now, the idea of only two communities occupying the presidency breeds discontent. To forestall this retrogressive practice, developed nations like Switzerland employ a rotational presidency among all the culturally and linguistically diverse regions. The United Arab Emirates apportions offices of the premier and president to their emirata, kingdoms or tribes, and at the end of it all, the 5 emirates occupy the first 5 top seats in the country. A real panacea for inclusivity. If you want to read what is happening on page 14 and 15 as far as the opinion piece in regard to this question, do you agree with Uhuru that it is time for the other Kenyan tribes to rule? Remember, we are open to your feedback. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. We have at Doreen Arange, at Jane Wamboi, and at Sam W. Joroge. Now let's put the political scene into perspective as filed by our reporter in this report.
Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kangata has denied harboring ill will in the ongoing clamor for constitutional review. The lawmaker recently made headlines when he allegedly wrote a letter to the president giving his assessment of the performance of the Building Bridges initiative in the Mount Kenya region.
Notwithstanding that fact, the discussion arising out of that letter appears to vindicate my strong view that there are people who are not being candid and frank on matters BBI, particularly the level of approval rating of BBI in our region of Mount Kenya.
Kangata's letter has been met with varied opinion among the political class, with others accusing the lawmaker of going to bed with the detractors of the constitutional initiative.
When good proposals come from whichever side, you now weaponize them. Instead of looking at the merit of a proposal, you start to bastardize that proposal just because it is coming from a certain quarter.
The Building Bridges initiative seeks to, among others, ensure inclusivity and entrench the unity of purpose in the country.
We must embrace inclusivity. We must understand that each and every Kenyan pays taxes. Taxes are collected in all regions of this country without discrimination. Therefore, don't discriminate when it comes to making appointments.
Odinga spoke on Monday in Karen as he sought the endorsement of the BBI by a lobby group led by Maina Jenga.
Tutasaidia baba kupanda milima. Na usidanganywe na mtu baba. Hapa hakuna upinzani. Watu wote wanajua baba ni nani.
I'm encouraging the youth to get into BBI report, read it, and give the people everybody who is depending on them informative information. Meanwhile, a section of leaders from Embu County have been accused of impeding the popularization of the BBI report in the region.
Majority of our political leaders coalescing around our deputy president are overtly anti-BBI. We should therefore remind them that the document they purport has not reached the people, was widely shared in social media after the launch at Bomas in October 20, a document they have and which they decided and refused to share with those who elected them, denying them knowledge so that they can peddle lies.
This even as the Kenya Muslim National Council Advisory Chair urged Kenyans to support the BBI with a view of bridging widening tribal and political gaps in the country.
Kwa dhati kabisa wapigie debe BBI na kiunga mkono ipite kwa referendum.
And as the race to replace Mike Sonko at City Hall continues gathering momentum, the County Assembly has accused a section of politicians of alleged intimidation.
The Deputy President and his team ought to have known better than any one of us that the county assemblies are independent and do not take instructions from political rallies.
The Nairobi County Assembly Deputy Speaker said the Assembly is under immense political pressure to act in a particular way in efforts to fill the position of the Nairobi Deputy Governor. Meanwhile, the Nyandarua County Assembly has withdrawn its membership from the county's Assembly's forum. 26 ward representatives on Monday voted to remove the County Assembly from CAF, accusing the forum of failing to address the needs of the County Assembly.
Bunge la Nyandarua litakuwa suspended kwa wiki mbili na tutarudi kuanzia leo na tutarudi tarehe 26 mwezi huu wa Januari mwaka huu saa 3:30 asubuhi.
The Nyandarua ward representative have further written to CAF advising the forum to elect another chairperson following the impeachment of Speaker Ndegwa Wahome. Wahome was impeached last Friday for alleged gross misconduct and abuse of office. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mongai.
Now from the political scene, let's look at those stories that are making headlines in the counties. And this is quite alarming, is that Roba, an official splits over Al-Shabaab presence in the county. Now, according to Mandera Governor Ali Roba, terrorists are collecting livestock by force from the helpless pastoralists in the name of zakat, that is offering. And this requires a radical approach to manage the trend. Otherwise, we will soon be under terror. And this is comments from the Mandera Governor Ali Roba. However, in a twist, is that the Northeastern Regional Coordinator says the security is tight. Now, updates indicate that, in as quoted there, the Northeastern Regional Coordinator says is that life in Mandera continues normally. And when he was contacted, he said, that is Nadama, he says that if Roba's claims were true, it would mean that the terrorists were all over the county. Now, he insists that security personnel repulsed militants who had attacked a vehicle in Banisa using an improvised explosive device yesterday. 2 of the 4 people who were in the car are missing. The militia also shot a bus, but the driver sped to a nearby police station. The incident was because of negligence, but the militia were repulsed, and that won't happen again. That is what the security Northeastern Regional Coordinator has to say in regard to the statement there by Mandera Governor Ali Roba. There is also an opinion piece by the same governor there saying that Mandera is at risk of being under Al-Shabaab. It goes on to detail what the county government of Mandera has done to help support security forces, the National Police Reserve on ground there, including that they pay the National Police Reserve at least 15,000 to just maintain security patrols, and they have hired over 15 vehicles to do that. Now, however, the increased presence of our security personnel has not deterred the movement of Al-Shabaab in northern Kenya. The government should do everything to kick out Al-Shabaab We refuse to be ruled in an independent Kenya by this militia. Those are words and quoted on the Standard issue this morning, page 14 of the Mandera governor, that is Mr. Ruba. You can read on what is happening as far as Mandera County and security is concerned, as well as getting further details of this and so many other stories concerning matters of security on our website.
Now, Sam, allow me to just jump in before you get to the Star and to just link this particular story in matters to do with security with what is happening in Uganda. They're expected to have the general elections this coming Thursday, and Facebook has shut down a number of accounts for some of the leaders ahead of these polls. And this story is on the People's Daily. You can get to have a read. It talks of how a number of Ugandan government officials and the ruling party members have had their Facebook accounts shut down as the internet giant accuses them of manipulating a public debate ahead of the key elections. And Facebook actually put out a statement yesterday saying that given the impending elections in Uganda, we have moved quickly to investigate and take down this network. They further on went to say that this particular network of people, quotes, they used fake accounts and duplicate accounts to manage pages, comment on other people's content, impersonate users, and reshare posts in groups to make them appear more popular than they actually were. So as they go to the polls this coming Thursday, of course, the big race between the two leaders who are among the total 11 candidates, that is the now incumbent President Yoweri Museveni, age 76, with his biggest opponent, pop star Bobby Wine, aged 38. They are the ones who are, at the top. But of course, there are 11 other candidates when it comes to this particular general elections. And according to Museveni's senior press secretary, that is Don Wanyama, he said, who posted on his Facebook, said that Museveni's Facebook and Instagram accounts were shut down, and he accused this particular company of seeking to influence the elections and aiding to plant a puppet leadership in Uganda by disabling online accounts of the ruling party. He went on to say that you won't take away President Kaguta Museveni. So that is what is happening in regards to security and the move that Facebook has taken to just try and contain the situation from their end.
We'll be keenly focusing on what happens in Uganda, looking at as far as from a business perspective, is that regionally, Uganda is as our source market for tourism. So if things go south and the tourism sector is, almost on its knees owing to COVID disruptions, well, we really need to keep a close eye on Uganda come Thursday. Sam Joro.
What up? What? Joro.
Your true roots.
Yeah.
What is Njoroge?
Unaona hii rangi?
Njoroge.
Hiyo rangi ya tuli. Kosa kuichunga manze.
Naitangwa rangi ya tao, rangi ya mandazi.
Najua yetu ni ya tao. Ni sawa tu. Yetu ni ile, unaona? Lakini tunasema hii rangi ya tuli alisema over the weekend. Hii unaweza ipata kwa bedroom. Unakumbuka hiyo rangi, Because that's what he said.
I missed that. I didn't hear that. I missed that.
He said that hii rangi nyeusi ukikosa kuchunga, Your Excellency, utawapata kwa bedroom.
Not funny.
That's what he said.
Okay.
And he's quoted right here on page 7 of the Star this morning, and he's now accusing the Teacher Service Commission of reluctance to end standoff with teachers, Kenya National Union of Teachers. And just to take a quote, teachers may be subdued, but they are certainly not happy. That is Atwoli speaking on page 7 of the Star. This is coming in the wake of Wilson Sossion over the weekend at Visa Oshwal in Baringo, where he was spearheading or overseeing the county elections, for KNUT bosses or officials from that region, where he said, reinstate teachers or we will not support the BBI. That was Wilson Sossion speaking in Baringo over the weekend. Now, it appears that he has attracted the attention of Francis Otwoli, the Kotu boss, who now lays blame at the feet of the Teachers Service Commission, accusing them of reluctance to end standoff with the Kenya National Union of Teachers. And that story is captured here on page 7 of the Star, where the trade unionist said that the commission has refused to resolve emerging issues between the commission and the Kenya National Union of Teachers, adding that twice he has sought an audience with the president over the issue, and he was responding to a social media post by former Geshogo Member of Parliament Martha Karua, who accused Kotu of failing to stand in solidarity with the teachers. That is page 7 of the Star for you this morning, which also captures Irungu Kang'ata, the Senate Majority Whip, as well as the Murang'a County Senator, saying that I'm not in fight with Uhuru over my BBI letter. That's page 7 of the Star for you today.
Now, the TSC not push and pull there. There's also something else in the offing, is that some of the members, some of the branch officials want Wilson Session out. And their complaints, among the complaints that they have tabled, is that some of the suspended leaders are Mumias branch executive secretary, that is John Wesanga, and his Butere counterpart, Albert Tugani. And they say the Western Region NAT officials have raised concerns over a recent decision by the Secretary General, that is Wilson Session, to suspend some local unionists accused of conspiring to remove him out of office. At the same time, the embattled Secretary General says, stand firm for NAT. That is his message to teachers. The NAT TSC push and pull. Here's a report that we had highlighted for you, but we hadn't queued it up. I'm sure it's queued up right now to just give you a perspective and more details in regard to what is happening as far as these two factions are concerned.
The union leaders in Kitui say they will go ahead and participate in politics and run for various positions as the constitution gives them the leeway to do so. Speaking at Muslim secondary school during the NAT general elections, the teachers condemned TSC for meddling in their rights to support the parties they desire.
Mwajiri ametoa members kwa chama kutoka wakati huo hadi wakati huu akiwa na lengo analolijua yeye mwenyewe. Kwa sababu zote na walimu walo hapa hatufahamu ni kwa nini walimu wanatolewa chamani. Na wakati tutakuwa unionless, we will be in danger.
NAT Executive Secretary Yate Branch Kasimba Ngui said teachers like any other Kenyan have a right to run for political office.
But we want to tell the employer that the circular we received last month is null and void. We are going to involve ourselves in politics 100%.
His Kitui counterpart Mutunga Ndingo called on teachers to ignore TSC circular warning them against participating in politics, noting that those who desire to run for political office should do so without fear.
Walimu, they are citizens of this republic. So we are saying we cannot allow segregation that we are not participating in politics. We have a right to align ourselves to the political wing, which we think will assist us teachers.
Walimu wakianza kupiga siasa, kusapoti wanasiasa, kusapoti president, wanaambiwa usiongee siasa. Wewe ni mwalimu. Na bado katiba inasema kila citizen ya nchi ako na freedom.
This comes as NAT criticized TSC for starving the union of funds meant to run its affairs. And as the union holds national elections across the country, they have faulted TSC for alleged intimidation by attempting to disintegrate the union.
Now, from that particular piece, we just want to have a quick look at what the Daily Nation has to say in regards to the COVID war. So now you are going to be needing a digital health pass for that matter, to leave or enter Kenya. This is the most recent announcement that has been made by the Ministry of Health. specifically by a statement that was put out by the health CS, that is Mutahi Kagwe, saying that all inbound and outbound travelers to Kenya are now required to present digitally a verified proof of a negative COVID-19 test. And this is after, up until yesterday, they have been having printed papers which were susceptible to forgery. And as of Monday next week, all persons, all travelers, inbound, outbound, you will be expected to present a digital pass that has been verified before you get to enter or leave the country. And this means that if you intend to depart the country, you must first visit an authorized laboratory to obtain a PCR COVID-19 test with a negative result, and be issued with a TT code that can be verified by airlines and immigration authorities. So basically, they have given a very brief breakdown of how this will be working. You'll receive a text message from PanaBios, a biosurveillance and bioscreening technology system, as well as an email with an email from the testing laboratory and or the admin from this particular system, which will generate a link. Then this link the next step will lead to a code that is going to be generated, which will now be verified to just confirm that you indeed did have a test taken and the results were negative. This is for Kenyans who are hoping to leave the country. As far as those who are hoping to come into the country, they have not given the clear procedures of how the verification system will be working in regards to that, but we are hoping to get the way forward in regards to this. So the government, however, did not issue a clear procedure on how travelers who also need to come to the country are going to be going about this. But so far, the certificate still stands for those who are coming into the country up until they give a clear way forward in regards to how inbound travelers are going to be presenting, or rather be verified digitally with this new method that is considered to be forgery proof. Let's see how that will play out. Ray?
Now, I want us to digress and focus on matters business, somewhat what has been happening. And I want to draw attention to yesterday in what is seen as a win to families of those who perished in the ET-302 plane crash. That's the Boeing that actually crashed just after takeoff from the Bole International Airport. And in the previous year, that was in 2019. In 2018, an ET-610 crashed also in Indonesia, killing all the 189 passengers and crew on board, while the Ethiopian one had 32 Kenyans, but the total was around 149. So yesterday they got compensation, and each and every family that lost a person in those crashes that amount to, you know, the people who perished, those are around 346, is going to be getting 153 million. And the lawyers who are actually litigating on this say that this is not the end for their litigation, because investigations indicate that the marks in that particular make of that Boeing flight had some issues, and so Boeing is going to be compensating them. Well, I did that story yesterday, and I'd want to just give you further details, so just in case you know someone who knows someone, well, this is what is happening. And may their souls continue resting in peace.
ET-302 crashed at Bishoftu town shortly after takeoff from the Bole International Airport, killing all the 149 passengers and crew on board, 32 of who were Kenyans. 5 months prior to the ET-302 crash, on the 29th of October 2018, a 737 MAX Flight 610 operated by Lion Air crashed shortly after takeoff in Indonesia, killing all the 189 passengers and crew.
From the civil litigation, we estimated that for the 346 people who perished, they would get $1 billion. Now, through the Department of Justice, they have entered into a settlement where they've allocated an additional 500 million for these families.
Manuel von Riebeck of Riebeck Law Chartered, who represents at least 88 families, revealed that according to the settlement agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice, Boeing will establish a $500 million fund to compensate the families of the 346 victims who died in the crash of Ethiopian Airlines ET-302 in Ethiopia and the Lion Air JT-610 in Indonesia.
And we're in the process of speaking with the Department of Justice and the Boeing company to see how the money and how quickly the money can be sent directly to our clients. Now, as far as whether this is the end of the litigation, it isn't. Our cases are still pending in federal court in Chicago. We have settled in excess of 50 cases so far, but we have close to 20 of them still in litigation.
As such, Boeing is to pay families 153 million shillings for each victim who perished in the two ill-fated aircrafts belonging to the Ethiopian Airlines and Lion Air of Malaysia. Federal Aviation Authority in its investigations revealed that the MCAs activated during the flight may have played a role in the crash. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Well, that is what is happening as far as compensation to the families of those who perished in those two aircrafts there, the Indonesian one in 2018 and the Ethiopian one in 2019 there. 346 of them in total. 32 of them were Kenyans, and each of the families now going to be receiving 153 million in compensation after investigations revealed that there was something wrong with those aircrafts. So Boeing is going to be compensating them. We'll be keeping tabs on what is happening in the matters, in matters of business, including a report that indicates that corruption is stifling growth at businesses and actually ensuring that startups do not rise as they should. Then also the issue of all eyes now are focused on the state and the government in as far as subsidies of diesels as global prices soar. So, we already know that whenever we have fuel prices going up, they affect the overall inflation. So transport goes up, cost of production goes up, the cost of living goes up. We'll be keenly focusing on that now because we're having that shift in as far as global oil prices are concerned. Stories of what is happening in matters sports, business, as well as our political scene, you can all find them on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke.
I believe it's now time for that break, and then when we return we'll be having all that and much more coming your way. Traffic update is still coming, and in case you're wondering where Doreen is, she's just taking a breather, but wherever she is, I'm very sure she thanks you for making time, and her name is Doreen Arange, right, ladies?
Indeed it is.
So let's take that break. We'll be back in a few.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bidi ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuameni vipi uliwekelea bidi?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bidi yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikaja nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako tukusaidie. Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The battle for the last 16 places of the DFB Pokal, better known as German Cup, is on. as former champions Bayer Leverkusen and Eintracht Frankfurt face off, hoping to book their place against Ottawa's SN. Watch it unfold live on your True Sports partner KBC Channel 1 on Tuesday, the 12th of January from 10:45 p.m. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Do you honestly think so?
Yes, I do. But worse than being blind is someone who refuses to see.
Lack
Will you
of
stop trying to make a fool out of me, please? You have done that many times. But I won't allow it again. Listen to me and look into my eyes. I said look into my eyes. I will not allow you to continue making a fool out of me.
Too bad, Father. Juliana can't make it on time for your birthday. I'm very sure that after your rebuff, she wouldn't want to speak with you again.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Where did you learn this?
Consider that I have found a new tutor.
Who had the audacity to do this?
Teacher!
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday haiandikangi hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu hajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
Don't you
point
dare.
me.
Oh, please.
Let the dead bury.
They are dead, right?
Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
Recipe. Every ingredient used has its purpose. How about we explore the science and arts involved in baking a vanilla cake? And I promise, it's going to be really exciting.
Today we are making a vanilla cake. For a vanilla cake, we need baking flour, of course. We need sugar. We need baking powder. We need vanilla essence. We need some milk there. For a good cake, you have to measure all your ingredients. So we are starting with measuring. Margarine. We are producing.
Every baking recipe, every ingredient used has its purpose. How about we explore the science and arts involved in baking a vanilla cake? And I promise, it's going to be really exciting.
Today we are making a vanilla cake. For a vanilla cake, we need baking flour, of course. We need sugar. We need baking powder. We need vanilla essence. We need some milk there. For a good cake, you have to measure all your ingredients. So we are starting with measuring margarine. We are producing a kg of vanilla cake. A kg. We need the grams so that we know how many kgs of cake we are producing. Next, we are measuring our sugar. For sugar, we need 1.5 cups of sugar. You can as well reduce your sugar depending on how you want it. You can put 1 cup, you can put 1.25, depending on. Next we'll be measuring our flour. Measuring cups, they cost 200 shillings.
So it can be really affordable for someone who really has passion for this.
Yeah. Onto the baking powder first, before, yes, okay. We are putting our baking powder into the flour.
Yes. We're also measuring it.
So I need 1.5 teaspoons for my baking powder. It also has to be leveled.
Just the way we did with the sugar and the flour?
Yes, yes.
What happens when you put a lot of baking powder? What does that do to the cake?
Your cake will sink.
Okay. So again, the correct amount?
Yes. We are going to the eggs next. Yeah. We need 4 eggs for this cake. Eggs play a big role in cake making since they also contribute to the grams of the cake. But you can also produce eggless cakes. We also have eggless cakes, which you will substitute your eggs with something else.
Which is this something else?
There are egg substitutes in baking shops, which you can use. There are processes when baking. You just don't put everything together. We have to go step by step. We have to cream sugar and margarine first, then we come in with our eggs, then finally we fold in our flour. After this, we are proceeding with the margarine and sugar.
Where we started?
Yeah. Now we are done with measuring our ingredients. Yes. We're going to cream sugar and margarine. This is called creaming.
What's that you're using for that purpose?
This is a hand mixer, available in baking shops as well.
So show us how you're doing that.
Okay. For mixing takes roughly 20 to 25 minutes.
20 to 25 minutes?
Yes.
Of just mixing?
Yes.
And also
that's called creaming.
Not mixing, but creaming.
For this process, we are creaming in. At the same time, we are incorporating air into our mixture. So for you to know it's well done, it has to be whitish and flat. Next, we are going to our eggs.
We'll be adding with the eggs and the essence?
Yes. We'll be adding one at a time as we creaming. Next, we are going in with the flour. Yes.
Which, remember, the flour has baking powder mixed as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll be alternating our flour and milk. For milk, you're using a half cup.
A half cup?
Yes.
So again, the measuring still comes into play?
Yes.
So you alternate, when you say you alternate the flour and the milk, what does that mean? Little by little?
Yes. Flour first, then some milk. You can see it's a half cup of milk. Then you proceed with the mixing.
The process again of mixing?
Yes. So next we are going to put our cake into the containers. I bake my cake, a kg of cake, I bake it in 2 containers. This is a pastry brush.
You have to have it. Yes.
You can improvise.
And use your hand because you're just trying to cover, it's like coats, cover the, what you're using to put in the cake.
Okay, so I'm going to grease my tins.
So what you're doing is
I'm greasing the tin.
Greasing the tin.
Yes.
What is the purpose of that? We want the cake to not stick or what?
Yes.
So again, the margarine is still what we are using.
Yes.
What you had the first time. And you grease the entire tin.
Yes.
Chini, kando, kila mahali.
Kila mahali.
So if you don't grease the side part, you have like a cake imekwama kule kando.
Yes.
And also the other tin, because you're saying you use 2 tins. Now, for your tin is steel. This is steel. Can you use any other alternative, or it just has to be steel?
I will recommend steel because some other materials will make your cake to burn.
To burn? Yes. Which materials are there so that we can know what to avoid when you want to start baking?
Light materials. There are many replicas of steel in the market today. So once you use a lighter version of it, your cake will burn instead of cooking.
Before the mix change the tin. Yes, like we can just clearly see that actually it's the speed, the way we are saying, you need it to be not so thick, and not so thin. Just there.
Yes. After this, you have to preheat your oven for 5 minutes.
For 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Before our cakes go in. Yes. And the cakes take 30 minutes to cook.
30 minutes to cook.
Yes.
So it has to be exactly preheated for 5 minutes and allow them to cook for precisely 30 minutes.
Yes. 30 minutes, that's if you're baking them like I am in 2 different containers.
Okay.
But if you're putting it in one container, that will take 45 minutes.
After preheating the oven at 180 degrees for 5 minutes, you let the cake cook for 30 minutes if you are using 2 tins and 45 minutes if the tin is 1, and this is specifically for a 1 kg cake. The minutes specified are to ensure that the cake cooks well.
So our cake is ready. Now we're making the buttercream, which is part of our decorating process.
So what if you put an excess of that?
You will be over-flavoring
your cake.
Yes.
All right.
You can also add color if you want at this point. Yes.
So when you say color, what are we talking about? What type of color, or what makes color? Is it a food color? Is, one more thing, is it a food color? Or when you say color, what are you talking about?
We are talking about food color.
Food color.
Yes, powdered food color will work.
Now with the ice flakes. And that is also done evenly. Kila mahali.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now it makes sense. So that you can at least go around and you get to spread the batter evenly. Kila mahali.
Yeah.
So you repeat the same process on top of the other second cake?
Yes. So for me, this is my first coat. I do 3 coats, 3 or 2 coats on a cake, depending. Yes. So I'll do the first coat, then put my cake in the freezer for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Then I proceed with the second coat.
Again for about 5 minutes?
Yes.
And then proceed with the third coat for about 5 minutes?
Yes.
So then why are you doing all the 3 coats? Why is it important for that? Because for me personally, I'll see and I'll be like, okay, 3 quarters hour.
For our first process, we are doing something called crumb coating. We are ensuring we don't get crumbs onto our third coat. Yes.
So this
is very important.
For that first coat.
Yeah. And this is buttercream. We've just added color to our buttercream. So we're going to use it to do the final decorating of the cake.
So nile buttercream, ile tu ya kawaida ni the difference ni food color.
Food color, yes.
Okay, which means you can use any?
Yeah, you can use any blue preference.
Preference ni yako. So how do you go about this one?
So with me, I have a piping bag. This is a nozzle at the tip. It's used to achieve the different designs in terms of decorating. There are different types of nozzles. Yes.
So the different types are used to achieve different designs, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, and also this is part of what you said, the startup decorating tools that one might need. Yes. Okay, so go ahead and show us. So unafaa kuchukua bit by bit.
Yes. I'm doing rosettes today. These are...
Hey, you're getting careful with it. You have to.
You have to be careful. Before I produce a cake, we have to be clear on the design to avoid confusion. So we have to agree on the design, the size of the cake before I proceed.
So design is key, is part of the main agreement that you make with the client.
It is.
Okay. So now this is the final product. Ready to be eaten.
Yes.
And we'll definitely eat it. After all, baking is just a profession like any other, with a lot of flexibility and creativity. Dorina Range for GMK.
Alright, so Dorina kirudi atatuambia hiyo keki iko wapi. Kuna venye alisababisha peke yake. But it's all good. Nonetheless, welcome in case you're just joining us. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Before we get started with the day's conversation, we want to have a quick look at the roads and see how things are looking, if it is safe to leave, if you haven't left the comfort of your home, or if you should just chill, watch us, entertain you, inform you, educate you. But if you have to leave, remember you can always take us with you. Stream us live. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and of course our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke/KBC-live. That is how you can get us direct. So we start with Langata Road. I always like starting with Langata Road. And we go as far back as the Bomas of Kenya / Galleria roundabout. Ndio hapo sasa. My Rongai brethren, things are going. Looking at this path that goes to the bottom right of bottom left rather of your screen, that is Magadi Road. So my people from Rongai, tutakuwa hapo for a solid minute, but let's zoom in closer to the Bomas of Kenya roundabout. People coming from Karen, Mkosawa, Msiwai Tense, looking good on both sides. And of course, where you see a change of color, very brief change of color, that is because there are some ramps at that particular point and a bump. So that is why you're seeing that slight orange right there. My screen, please behave. Wacha kuji zoom back out. We want our viewers to see. All right, there we go. Langata Road, remember we say green means everything is looking good. But if you see an change to a dark maroon shade, that means the traffic is a near standstill. But as of now, from the Bomas of Kenya roundabout for the better part of Langata Road, not looking too bad. But as you approach, or rather when you go past the cemetery on your way into the city, you are going to be experiencing some traffic. There's some bits where it's an almost standstill situation up until the Langata police station mini roundabout right there. Not looking good at all, man. Langata Road leo imeamua, it's exactly 23 minutes past 8 a.m. So not looking too good from the Langata roundabout as you make your way to the next junction that is around the Langata Women's Hospital. Also not looking good at all. I don't know why there's so much traffic at this particular point. There isn't any ramps or bumps along this particular path, but not looking good at all. But this is expected. It is about that time that you get to, everyone is just trying to get into the city or to get to their places of business, and not looking good at all. As we go past the Southern Bypass, now I'm any parking lot. Today we are going to be spending a solid minute along Langata Road. That right there is the Southern Bypass overpass. As you go past that, you go down to the areas along Carnival. Watu wa 1824. Hapo pia kuna traffic mad. There are brief There's some movement happening, but it's not very encouraging at this particular time. And that is the situation as you go past the Sunshine Secondary School, making your way down to Wilson Airport, up until the areas of Western Hotel. And as you approach the T-Mall roundabout, there is some construction that is going on at around that point. So as you get to this particular point, it's expected to be for traffic to be moving very slowly at that particular point. But generally looking at Lang'ata Road from the Bomas of Kenya, Leo, today is not a good day for you. But before we, or rather, let's finish up with Lang'ata Road. So that is the stretch between Lang'ata Road, the T-Mall roundabout, up until the Madaraka roundabout parking lot. No movement to our breakfast, as I say, cooler. Move slowly. Watch us, www.kbc.co.ke. And also from the stretch between Madaraka to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, not looking good at all, as well as the Aerodrome option, not good. As in leo, kani kuchelewa, tunachelewa fashionably. All right, let's look at Mbagathi Way as an alternative for those who might consider using it. So from the T-Mall roundabout there on the center of your screen, yes, there we go. That is the T-Mall roundabout, and to the left, bottom left of your screen, that is Mbagathi Way. Not looking bad, actually. Green always means we are prospering, no traffic, we are looking good. But when you get to the high-rise junction, hapo ndo nakutana na reality. That is now where it seems like traffic ilikuwa imelala kidogo, but it's like, okay, it is time to interrupt your day. Hello, how are you? I am traffic. So, and that appears to be the situation for a brief minute, but then it goes back to sleep, so you don't have to worry much about that up until you get to the Ngumo Junction. Then from there, the traffic, it gets back to work. And it's the situation up until you get to the City Motor roundabout. So Mbagathi Way not looking too bad. It's a good alternative for you if it will help you get to your place of work or business in good time. Now let us go back and tuangalie Mombasa Road very briefly before we get started with today's interviews. Now as of Mombasa Road, I like going as far back as the City Cabanas overpass. Of course, there's also some construction going on along Mombasa Road, but just from what we are seeing, my people using Mobadha Road, those who are using Airport North Road, trying to join the highway, poleni, jipatie like an hour before you actually get to join the highway, because it's a standstill situation, gridlock. Dorian Naitanga, gridlock. That is the situation. And for those of you who are already on Mombasa Road, from the City Cabanas overpass, not looking good at all. Traffic is moving very slowly. Red is like better than maroon. So there's always some bit of hope right there. So that is how things are looking from the City Cabanas overpass. As you go past the Imara Daima Junction, there's some construction that is happening over there. I believe it is a footbridge. If I am wrong, our traffic marshal A1 shall rectify that information. All right. Keeping up with Mombasa Road past the Imara Daima Junction, as you go down past the General Motors area, traffic is moving so slowly this morning. Ni kama leo waliambiana leo we are going to waste y'all's time. Past the Panari, as you approach the Southern Bypass Junction. The Southern Bypass is it's a safe option if it'll help you get to where you want to go this morning in less time. But Mombasa Road from the Southern Bypass, that is now where the situation amplifies in terms of traffic. It now moves from bits of orange and green to bits of red and maroon, and that is never good news. And this is also the situation past the Bellevue Junction. And that is the situation all the way up until the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So what we have seen so far. Langata Road not looking good. Mombasa Road also not looking good this morning. But the Southern Bypass is an option, as well as Mbagathi Way for Langata Road and Nyayo Stadium users, respectively. Yes. Trying to get into the city from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout up until the Bunyala roundabout. Again, traffic, no movement at all. But of course, this is expected at this particular time. Then the stretch between Bunyala up until the Haile Selassie roundabout, it looks better than the Nyayo Stadium stretch to Bunyala stretch. So this will be a bit easier for you. You won't be there for too long. And if you are trying to get into the city from the Haile Selassie roundabout to the Railways roundabout or the Memorial Park roundabout, it's going to be much better. At least there's proper movement right there, contrary to what most people might be expecting at this particular time. You are looking good. Then the stretch between Haile Selassie up until the GPO roundabout, not looking too bad this morning. So that is how we are looking so far. Langata Road and Mombasa Road not looking too good, but once you make your way up until the Haile Selassie roundabout, trying to get into the CBD would be much easier as opposed to keeping up with Uhuru Highway. So that is what we're looking at. We have as of now. We will be back to have a look at the roads to see if the situation would have changed. Would have changed. Hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Let us know how things are looking on your end at KBC Channel 1, at Jane Mamboy, at Sam Dublin Njoroge, and at Ray Manyara is how you can get in touch with us on Twitter.
Now from the roads, let's talk about money and talking about matters of entrepreneurship. Today we're talking about savings culture. Now, if you're watching us this morning, the question I'd want to put out to you: how much are you spending? And how much are you saving? Financial literacy at a time when Kenya has been identified as a society that has a weak savings culture. So this morning on Entrepreneurship Tuesday, we're joined by a financial consultant with 8 years of experience in commercial banking as well as investment banking. This is none other than David Kingo to take us through this conversation. Thank you, sir, for joining us this morning. Glad to have you on. Yes, glad to have you on board. Now, we have a weak savings culture, and from your experience, maybe you can just shed some light. Why do you think, or rather, why are Kenyans regarded as, a society with a weak savings culture?
So savings is something that is learned over time, and because investment is a structure or is a discipline that has come to Kenya very late based on economic status. So saving has not been there as a discipline that people should have inculcated at the younger age. Because even the way we grow in terms of borrowing and consumption, and not an aspect of saving. Remember, when we are advanced as an economy, then we reach at a point whereby we save before we consume. But the way we've been historically wired, we consume, we borrow, then we save later to invest later. So based on the cultural background and the structure of our economy and the status of our financial literacy, definitely saving is not an option that will be there. Yes.
Now, what would you say would be the basic principles of saving?
The basic principles of saving, it is anchored on one thing, that before you consume, before you even think about when you get to a small income, and I'm speaking to the local person, basically even in the informal sector, when you get to a small money, the first thing that you do is to save. The biggest principle is save before you consume. Number two is to establish the saving vehicle. Where do you put your money so that you ensure your money is exactly safe? Number three is the process of saving. It should be hassle-free. It should be a click of a button. It should be something that you struggle to do. Because by the time you get to a small income, the first day, your need to consume is always at the peak of your day. So by the time you get it, you are able to save very fast and continue consuming, continue buying your normal things that you usually buy. So those are the key major aspects that one should consider before in calculating the saving culture in themselves.
Now, there's this conversation and, people, especially you've mentioned, I like that you've mentioned the issue of the informal sector. These are people who are working or rather earning hand to mouth. And there's this thought that then the issues of how much I earn vis-a-vis how much I save, do they play? Do they come into play in this regard?
They really come into play a lot because sometimes people will say you save 10% of your income or salary or your informal earning that you get. So, but basically, it is something that people should strive to do, even though it is quite difficult based on the cost of living in the country. You find it is difficult for someone to save, for example, 10% of what they get. But basically, that is the primary percentage that someone should be able to save. And leave alone the structured saving. For those who are in the formal sector, there are those savings that you save in a circle, for example, maybe to borrow a loan. So once you borrow a loan, of course, the saving that you were making, they are tied to that particular loan. So they are no longer your savings. So you should also make an extra mile to ensure that you save and you have your own cash liquid that is somewhere that you can use in case of an emergency, that you can invest at some point at interest-free, at a cost-free. Yes.
Now, talking about, the options there, I've heard you talking about savings with the SACCOs. What recommendations would you give, given your experience, for, someone to save? Do we do the table banking, the chamas, the merry-go-rounds, or do we go to the commercial banks and SACCOs for our savings? What would be ideal for who, when?
The three investment vehicles that you mentioned about SACCOs, chamas, and commercial banks. So I would first start what the objective of a chama. The chama tries to solve the hassle of going into a commercial bank to make savings. The chama, you see, when you go into a commercial bank, for example, you're told to save on your own as a person. You are not able to earn much. You're not able to consolidate much funds that you do in a group. So number one, they save the convenience. Number two, a chama will give you power to save more. Number three, if you save, for example, as a chama, and you save for some time, then you are able to borrow that particular amount at an interest that is even lower than that you get into a commercial bank. So there is cheap cost of borrowing within yourself when you do a group compared to commercial banks. So those structured saving vehicles. Number three, about the chama, you're able to understand each other and able to understand at what particular point and how much should someone be able to borrow and pay. So the savings is connected with the borrowing, and the borrowing is connected with the investment, and the investment is connected with your own financial empowerment. So it's a cheaper vehicle for empowerment that is easily available to the informal people who are in the villages, and even those who are in the civilized society or civilized economic structures. Chamas still play a big role in terms of savings as a simple vehicle. When it comes to SACCOs, they're also good in terms of savings, and they really help a lot. They really bridge a bigger gap in this economy for those people who would feel they never fit in a commercial bank and borrow, because the objective of saving, when you talk about SACCOs, it means you want to save for you to borrow. When you borrow, for example, in a commercial bank, savings might not be a requirement. You require to bring some other asset. But when you save in a SACCO, you're able to get a loan based on the amount that you've been saved as a cash cover. So it helps you and give you some multiple times. So the advantage that you're able to borrow some multiple times based on the savings you've done. So when it comes to saving in commercial banks, the interest, of course, might be primarily low that you earn based on your savings, and the saving that you make, they might not be a major boost when it comes to borrowing. So it's an advanced way of savings when we come to commercial banks. But the primary one for informal sector and understanding savings, we would really advocate for. When you start with a chama, you advance and understand savings, then you move into a SACCO. For example, you will come to understand savings and borrow. But when now you come to commercial banks, of course, you are at advanced age of savings, yes.
So in your opinion, Mr. Kingo here, would you advise that one to first save in a SACCO than a commercial bank, or does it depend on what a person is earning in essence?
For people to save in a chama, for example, first it helps people to come together and have a common understanding on why they are saving. So you are able to interact easily with the people that you are saving together, and you are able even to discuss the challenges that you face on that particular savings. You are also able to discuss the business avenues that you can get it. When you are in constant communication with your saving vehicle, definitely you understand where to put your money, and that's exactly the primary basic of these chamas. When we go into the informal setup in the villages, where women, for example, are able to save in a group and do table banking, of course it helps them get small amount from their friends and go to invest in their local business, and earn can be able to pay back the loan at a very lower interest, because it is their money that they are together and they are able to empower themselves. So it creates a very cheap vehicle for economic growth for each and every particular individual in that particular group. So basically, they are good for startup, they are good for kicking, and they're also applicable in mega investors, in big investors who are able to put their resources together very fast and invest. Yes.
Now, Mr. Kingo, you've mentioned something that we all know about. The merry-go-rounds, the table banking, the chamas and such are very synonymous to women. Does this mean our men do not save, or they do not have time to actually save, or chamas, merry-go-rounds, table banking are not for them?
When you look at the history of these merry-go-rounds and chamas, basically they are meant for social structures. Because it is that when you want to form a group, there are key issues that you need to consider. This should be one, people of the similar economic status. Number two, people who have a social connection. Number three, they should be people who have a common need or common problem. So women are able to come together socially and invest together as psychologically compared to men. Men would want to strive and struggle alone and achieve a breakthrough by their own, but women have a social angle that they're able to come together and share even their problems. That's why we mentioned you must be having a common need. So women will basically share their issues and discuss how they can get out of that particular circle of a problem. And if chama is an option, definitely they go for it. That's why it is not really popular in men, even though nowadays men are doing it a lot and they are forming groups and we've seen them succeed. Yes.
Now, what would be a comment around, the savings culture among the youth?
So the saving culture among the youth is something that needs to be really pushed in terms of awareness, because even the way we grow as young people, we grow knowing that we'll go to commercial banks and borrow. We don't grow knowing that we can save. That is where now we get it wrong. Then when you come even to us as a country, the conversation that we will have in these markets about borrowing, we rarely have conversation about savings. If it was simple to save, if there were drivers to save more than the economic financial drivers to invest or to borrow, then we really have killed the culture of borrowing rather than compared to saving. So what we lack is those incentives and educations and having platform that we are able to save very fast. We've seen even telecommunication, the companies talking about savings, but even the way they talk about the saving, they talk about the borrowing more than the saving. So it's about changing culture and everybody taking responsibility, including financial institutions, to educate the young people about saving, because that is the shortest option that you can create legit and wealth that you can really talk about.
Now, enculturation, I hear you talking about enculturation, the way we have been raised. We talk more about borrowing but not saving. Then how would it change? Like if you're given an opportunity, Mr. Kingo, how would you go about it to change this mentality among the youth in as far as savings is concerned?
Definitely, we really, even as a private consultant, we really meet meet people in circles, people in investment bankings, and also people in circles, just to educate them on the importance of saving. I just give you an example. For example, someone is in a circle and he has a standing order or check for that's supposed to save of around 5,000. This person tell you sometimes they go and get some larger amounts of money, but they are not able to say, they don't know whether they can still do a lump sum deposit at some point with their savings, because they are only told that for savings you're supposed to be paying 5,000, for example. So we try to educate people and tell them that anytime you feel that you have an extra cash, you've done your basic needs and you have an extra cash, kindly identify a saving vehicle that you can easily save without an hassle. The way you will log into your phone and go into these online borrowing platforms and very fast borrow, you should strive to have an option where immediately you get some cash, you are able to save instant, be it your circle, be it your commercial bank, be it your group. We also try to educate people in groups and tell them you don't need to struggle with your little saving that you make. You can agree on a target. For example, you want to acquire some property. So you strain for some time and say, we'll boost our saving by this particular amount. We also introduce some portfolio sharing that we agree. Let us agree on a shareholding for this particular property that you are going to buy. So in that way, we are able to push the culture of saving to every opportunity that we get, because that's the only way we can educate Kenyans to really grow themselves. And even look at this particular COVID-19, those people that had saved, primarily they had a softer landing on this COVID-19. Those who are on the borrowing end, of course, it was not simple. And those who totally don't borrow, don't save, of course, it has been quite a challenging period. Yes.
Now, David Kingo, thank you for that, update there for the first few minutes of this interactive segment. We're going to be taking a short break, but when we return, we're going to be sampling some of the feedback that we're receiving from you as our viewer. I'm just encouraging you that our communications lines are open. You can reach out to us on Twitter, and our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. Get tweeting. What questions do you have for our guest this morning? That is David Kingo, who is taking us through this conversation on financial literacy, getting to understand what we need to know in as far as saving is concerned, and where, after we have saved these monies that we've saved, where can we invest them? We take a short break. We'll be right back.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bidi ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bidi?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bidi yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the African Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Yote ndawaidu iko tu sawa kwa macho yako.
Unataka kuwako?
Ati nini? Why are you people shouting?
Are you okay?
mwanamke wewe ninakuona sana. Ni wanaume hapa Mombasa wameisha.
Ni nini mbaya? Nowadays we have so many unfaithful people.
What?
We need to talk about her every time we are together.
And be very careful the way you address me.
Zako zinakuangaje? Huwezi kaa dakika mbili hata bila kuteta.
You will all sign new contracts.
And I am supposed to be briefed.
What? Staki ujinga.
Oof.
Bayern Munich hopes to get past Holstein Kiel on Wednesday the 13th of January in their second round matchup of the DFB Cup as they seek to defend their title.
Alaba! Brilliant free kick from the Austrian!
It's another must-watch match you cannot afford to miss on Wednesday the 13th of January from 10:45 p.m. live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1.
Thank you for still keeping us company right here on Good Morning Kenya. It's Entrepreneurship Tuesday, and this morning we're talking about financial literacy. Everyone is complaining that there's no money. It's January has 90 days and such. But according to our guest this morning, David Kingo, who is a financial consultant for the last 8 years in as far as commercial banking and investment banking is concerned, says that you have to save before you spend. It is quite difficult, and we're having a lot of feedback, and I would want to pose this question to our guest this morning. Mr. Kingo, there's an entrepreneur watching all the way from Athi River, Machakos, goes by the name of Elias Bosire. He says, good morning, and he says, why do people like Jack Ma, Elon Musk, and every other billionaire don't encourage savings? Actually, they do not have saving accounts. What is your take in regard to this, observation by one of our guests this morning, Mr. Kingo?
So I thought that he's trying to say that most billionaires don't save, right?
Yes, I guess so.
What happened? The history of becoming a billionaire definitely starts from savings. Then you save, you invest. After you invest, you become a billionaire. You can't just start from nowhere and become a billionaire. And these people have saved in their asset. We'll say saving ages at some point. At some point, when you start saving, your saving will be in terms of cash, liquid. Then when you become a billionaire, for example, your saving is in terms of the asset that you have. So, because cash is an asset when it is in a commercial bank, but it's in a chama. When you stand up and say, I have saved 25,000 with our ABC group, so your asset is in cash form. That is 25,000, for example. When this billionaire stands up and say, what is my asset? They say, my asset is the investment that I have in real estate. So basically, you have to graduate from cash savings to those touchable savings like asset, real estate. I mean such. That's where we categorize you as a billionaire.
Very well. Now the same viewer is still saying. He says, I personally do not have a savings account. And I proceeded to ask them why. And they say, I'd rather invest. Why save when I can readily walk into a bank and get the money that others have saved in the form of a loan?
So
how
what
about that,
happens is
Mr. Kingo? Yes?
So she trying to say that they can still go into a commercial banks and borrow the amount that they are going to save when and then invest. So borrowing comes with a cost. We call it cost of capital because we're borrowing to go and invest. So it comes with a cost of capital. Then look at a point whereby you got into an emergency and or a need that you want to make an investment even. Then when you go to a commercial bank, basically getting a loan comes with conditions and you're not able to raise this particular asset to secure your loan. But look, it's at some point where you are saving the amount that you save. You can easily use it at a low cost to go and invest. That's the difference. So by the time you go to borrow, you must have some security. And this security you'll have earned them through buying based on saving that you've done previously, that you can get assets or that you can borrow. Borrowing comes as a secondary after saving. But when you start with the borrowing, then you want to discuss the conversation of saving later. Of course, cost of capital will get you at some point. Mm-hmm. And it's quite expensive.
Indeed, I hope our viewer, Elias Busire, who is watching from Athi River, Machakos there, and happens to be an entrepreneur, has had your view and your opinion of that. It does not mean you need the savings provides you security, especially during an emergency. Yes, you can walk to a commercial bank and get the money that you wanted, but savings give you security. Now, Mr. Kingo, we're talking, now let's digress. And we've had something that is very synonymous. When you talk about savings is tied to borrowing as well as investment. So I have saved. Where do I invest my money? For the short term or medium term and long term going forward?
So basically it depends with the amount of saving that you have. So we'll first start with people who have large sums of savings. So we've been able to go into a group and you raise, for example, 2 million over like 3 years, so, and then you want to discuss how to save. So even before you go into buying anything, you would definitely have to take time and understand what you want to go and buy, do your due diligence, do your KYCs. So at that particular point, your money is sitting somewhere idle. The first secure saving that you can do, as you discuss where to put your money, you can put in commercial banks as a fixed deposit. That way you're able to earn, despite being little, you're able to take time and make a decision on where you want to take your money. Number two, you can do treasury bills and bonds, and that one will take close to 3 years, 3 months, 6 months, or even 1 year. So they are quite secure. Those are the basic secure investment drivers that you can basically use. But when now your world has quite grown, so we've something that has grown up in the market, we call it money market. So you can put your money in those regulated fund managers, where you put some small amounts and see how it grows. And when you need your money, you can easily withdraw and go and invest. So basically, those are the training grounds for people who want to invest. Or rather who want to save and invest, as you learn where to take your money. Because of course you will not save for lifetime. You have to save to agree, I'm saving for this particular duration of period. I earn this specific interest and I take my money plus interest to buy this particular asset or invest here. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Well, those investment vehicles are there. We're looking at treasury bonds as being secure, and we have as well as the money markets. And for those people with disposable or rather large incomes of money, liquidity, they need to come together and decide whether it's a real estate or whatever sector, depending on their returns. Now, we also have a question here from one of our own here in studio. And they're wondering, Mr. Kingo, if you just can take us through the basics of savings. And we have an amount, figure amount of maybe earnings of around 30,000 for someone who is, yes, working, but they have just started on an entry job and they're earning 30,000. How would you advise them to go about their savings, and what would be their opportunities there in, for investment? Maybe you can just take us through that.
So the first thing that you will thank yourself later when you start to working, and by the time you realize, for example, you already 8 years or 7 years in the job market and you've been earning 30,000, that has even grown up to around 50 or 70, and you cannot say this is the much I have saved. So when you get an employment that you're earning 30,000, there are two key forms that will be given by the employer. One is the employment letter. So number two, make sure you get another form for saving. Either you can attach yourself to a specific circle. With parastatals who have circle that they get customers even who are not employee of that particular parastatal. So basically, that's what I would advise. Someone who is starting working and they are earning close like 30,000, get that particular form of a saving. First start with a circle, because of course your experience on saving is not as much as someone who has worked for quite some years. So when you start with a circle, for example, your money will be safe, and by the time you hit like 5 years of employment, you'll have understood now where else can I go and invest, where else can I take my savings and take that. Number two, you can also look at regulated money market. For the way we have commercial banks regulated by Central Bank of Kenya, we also have invest fund managers that are regulated by CMN. So you can even go into their money market and save continuously as you grow in your employment. So at some point then you realize when you're hitting like 5 years in employment, this is how much I've been able to save. Now you can take the money and invest elsewhere, and of course look for knowledge on investment and savings.
Now talking about investments, and especially those entry jobs, people who are trying to make money quick, and this happen to be the young people, the youth. Now we have seen a surge in forex trading, and this has happened, among the youth. What is your take in regard to that? Any forex trading as a form of savings and investments?
So we have a surge of investments and saving ideas that has come in our generation. People are trying to find how to make money easily, and they are trying to attack the method that they identify for making money easily. They are trying to identify how can we have them secure. So forex trading is an option that can be done, but when you do a forex trading, like buying shares. So when you buy these shares, definitely you have an option to lose, because when the value of the share drops, then definitely you have lost your money. So when you invest in forex trading, definitely you have to understand that at some point you're able to your money will lose value in case due to the fluctuation of the forex currency. So it's an option that you can try, but when you already have an option of losing your money or your money losing value at some point, yes. Mm-hmm. And it's not advisable for startups unless you really understand the market. And when I go in with my 100,000 after some trading, how much do I want to get out of it? So you say, if I just want to make 20,000 and exit, when you make your 20,000, just exit. You might take time and lose the 20,000, even eat up on your initial capital.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, when you're talking about forex trading, there's another aspect that comes into play. The issue of gaming and betting, especially among the young people, they're looking to make money quick, and gaming and betting is providing that. What is your take from a financial consultant point of view?
So we're only saying betting is you bet responsibly, because betting is an error, some game that you're trying to do with your money, so you can easily lose it. And I'm not sure it's when you're talking about gaming or betting, it's not an option that you talk about when you want to make money or rather invest. It's just a basic game of money that has come to some illusion that we'll be able to make money out of it. But the chances of losing are even higher than the chances of gaining, because when two or rather three people try to bet, even at least one will make it, so two will lose. But when you learn the formal and the structured saving mechanism, you earn small money or relatively smaller money than betting, and that you are sure of your money is safe. I'm not sure someone will want to gamble with the money that they have earned through ASO and BASO. So basically, betting is a chance. It's a chance. It's not an option that you want to say you want to create your wealth through betting. No. I don't know. I would say it's not an option of betting.
Now, seems that we are having a bit of gray areas in as far as betting and gaming is concerned. Now, the issue, Mr. Kingo, of, saving for our children, especially as guardians and parents. The uptake of trust funds for our children, is this something that we have embraced as a society, or is still an alien feature among us?
So it's something that is very good, and when you look at even on the insurance take-up, basically as a one basket where we have saving for kids there, or investing for kids there, or taking insurance, be either for investment or their education. We say the insurance sector has only penetrated 3% of the population. That tells you that trust funds for our kids, it's quite the uptake is very low because of the education regarding the same and it's the financial institutions investing on the same. So when you're going to a financial institution, they basically market their commercial account, their business account compared to the children's account. So the marketing that and the public awareness is very low, even though it is quite a very material saving account that people should adopt. But the penetration in the market is quite low, but it is very extremely important.
Now, one of the investments that most Kenyans get into is towards owning a home. So, Mr. Kingo, from where you sit, what would be the best vehicle, savings and investments vehicle for someone who is looking to buy a home at some point? What would you advise?
So owning a home, definitely, if you talk about borrowing, you get a mortgage that's around 25 or 20 years, or 15, 20, 25 years long term for a mortgage. Then for when you look at people who are employed, the average years that you can work is around by 30, 35 years. You should have left the employment based on retirement. So you will be servicing this particular loan for 25 years. So in a span of 25 years, I'm not sure that we'll not be able to have saved for like 10 years, understand and be able to understand how can you diversify your savings or use the wealth that you can earn to buy a house or own a home or construct your own home. Then the rest of the 15 years, that was totaling to 10 plus 15, 25, you stay in a home that you don't pay rent or that you don't pay loan. So basically, those are the pros and cons. Because for 25 years paying facility, then I'm not sure you're not able to stay for 10 years and make a decision on how you can really own your own house. So the concept that save and discuss how you can buy your own parcel of land and build over time, and then you will achieve it at a very lower cost, because you can even do the calculations on a mortgage and look at the interest that you would be charged on that particular facility because of the number of the years. So savings so that you can be able to buy your own property and grow it is the best option. And then just on to touch something on financial literacy. When you're able to save and buy a parcel of land, remember you can go even to a commercial banks and take a shorter term loan based on that particular title deed. Then that particular money you're able to build your own house and even remain with a few of that particular cash to go and start a business. So those are the options that someone can really explore. But it depends on understanding of how you can maneuver through.
Thank you very much. That's a question that most people, grapple with. Do I go into mortgage and, pay part of my rent as I'm still living here? But now the term in itself, as you've mentioned, there 25 years might actually is actually very long, and in the long run turns out to be a very expensive investment, unlike if you did save and bought land and consequently constructed your own home. Now there's a question here from Josephine from Kino. Mr. Kingo, what is the difference between an emergency fund and a savings account? Mr. Kingo?
So an emergency fund definitely is that because of the nature of saving avenues that we have, they are not able to differentiate between an emergency fund and savings funds. But of course, even in economics, they are categorized different. The demand for money for emergency is different from the demand for money for saving. So once you are able to save, you should be able to save, for example, if you know you don't have something that we call passive income, an income that constantly comes into your account on a monthly basis, or even anytime, for example, you're running your own business. So when you have one particular income and then you've done your saving, you must make sure your saving can be easily redeemed in case you are need. So don't do irredeemable savings. Irredeemable saving are saving that you cannot be able to break and go and get them. And then you agree. If, for example, I'm saving 5,000, 10% of that I can withdraw at some point when you have an emergency. Then before you go to touch your savings, you must have in your mind or in your annual goals or your saving goals that withdrawing my savings will be the last option, the last resort. You must have tried all options that you can to withdraw savings. Remember, for example, if, for example, you've been able to save 50,000 and you have a need of 25,000, when you get that 25,000 from the 50,000 that was your savings, you will not be able to return that particular money into that account by subsequently saving later if you are not very strict on your saving culture. But if this 25,000, you went to even a commercial bank and said, I want 25,000, and they give you 15,000. The rest you go and sell something more that you have in your house that you don't use, you bring it to top up 25,000. You will be able to still save the amount that you usually save to that has earned you up to 50,000 and pay this particular small loan without eating on your savings. So at the end of the day, you will still have your savings done and you will have paid your loan. So getting your savings should be the last resort. Then have at the back of your mind that some percentage of my saving, I can touch it just in case I have an emergency. And if you don't have a passive income, don't do what you call irredeemable saving, a saving that you cannot break at a certain point. You can't push money into treasury bills and bonds for 1 year. Then at the midst, you have a medical emergency and you want to withdraw. Definitely, you will not make it. But if you have your money in a money market fund or fixed account in commercial bank that can be broken out. So when you have a medical issue, for example, in between, you can easily go and say, I would want to surrender a few coins in my savings at a positive capital benefit, so to an issue. Yes.
Thank you very much, David Kingo there, who is a financial consultant with an 8 years experience in commercial banking and investment banking. You need to save as you're spending. Actually save before you spend and know where it is that you're saving in. It has been an Entrepreneurship Tuesday. Now we give way or rather pave way for health segment, that is, matters of health this Tuesday with Jane Wamboi coming up in not long. Thank you very much for your time. Keep tweeting, keep giving us that feedback. I'm Regina Manyara. See you tomorrow, same time.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikaja nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The battle for the last 16 places of the DFB Pokal, better known as German Cup, is on. As former champions Bayer Leverkusen and Eintracht Frankfurt face off, hoping to book their place against Ottoways SN. Watch it unfold live on your True Sports partner KBC Channel 1 on Tuesday, the 12th of January from 10:45 p.m. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Do you honestly think so?
Yes, I do. But worse than being blind is someone who refuses to see.
Lack
Will you
of
stop trying to make a fool out of me, please? You have done that many times. But I won't allow it again. Listen to me and look into my eyes. I said look into my eyes. I will not allow you to continue making a fool out of me.
Too bad, Father. Juliana can't make it on time for your birthday. I'm very sure that after your rebuff, she wouldn't want to speak with you again.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far. This is still Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jane Wamboy. In case you are just joining us, Karibu. We are glad that you have chosen to join us today for this particular conversation. And we want to just get straight into our health topic for today. But remember, we still are active on Twitter. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. At KBC Channel 1 ever remains to be our official station handle. My handle is at Jane Wamboy across all the socials. And also our Facebook page is KBC Channel 1. So, questions, comments, clarifications, anything really that you may be needing in regards to this conversation, we absolutely welcome you to share with us using that particular hashtag. Good Morning Kenya. I will be going through your comments in not too long. So let me introduce to you our guest this morning on our health segment. We have with us Dr. Charles Morioki, who is a gynecologist working at MP Shah Hospital. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Thank you.
Glad to have you this morning.
Glad to have you here.
So today on our health segment, we're going to be having a conversation revolving around reproductive health. Women issues, more so, he's a gynecologist. So this is mostly a conversation that revolves around Magaldim, all the ladies out there. And also we just want to address the situation that we are in as a country. Just yesterday on the Daily Nation, Nandi County reported 10,000 school-going girls fell pregnant during COVID-19 break. 10,000. Different counties have different numbers, but we are alive to this particular situation. So many young girls are pregnant. The situation and the circumstances that led to their pregnancy, some of them are very heartbreaking, or rather most of them are very heartbreaking. We had issues to do with sexual violence taking a sharp increase. But what are the consequences of some of these issues? And we want to understand it from a reproductive point of view. So I want us to just start with the basics. Maybe someone is watching us this morning now, amesikia nimekuita gynecologist.
Yes.
Anashinda, who is that? Where is that? Understanding what a gynecologist does. Let's start there.
Thank you very much for having me in this show. I think the work of obstetricians and gynecologists is to offer reproductive health services to women. that also sometimes does extend to men as well, but mainly women. So dealing with issues regarding pregnancy and pregnancy complications, and issues regarding non-pregnancy conditions that affect women as well.
All right.
Yes.
So when we talk about reproductive health, what would you consider to be a reproductive health system of a woman or a man or a patient that you may be attending to? What are those pointers that you look at to help you understand if this system is, we're on the right track reproductive-wise?
Yeah, so ideally, actually, when you think of it in a very broad perspective, reproductive health services encompass, first and foremost, yes, the matters regarding fertility. And when we talk about fertility in a woman, we're talking about the capacity to be able to, get pregnant and carry on the pregnancy. So there is the basic questions that we usually would want to know, and mainly, we'd want to know, are women having regular cycles, because that points to the chance that they could be fertile. 95% of women who have regular cycles are actually ovulating. For men, you probably might not be able to fully evaluate that, not unless there is a situation where they are unable to father and they need to have a test that would be able to tell us whether there's any issue. But as I said, it's broader than that. Fertility, reproductive health services is not just concentrated on fertility. It also encompasses issues regarding contraception and what contraceptive methods are best for, suited for one person vis-a-vis the other. So it's broader than just, the issues of pregnancy and pregnancy complications.
All right. I just had a deja vu moment here. But yesterday when I was just reading about this whole reproductive topic, I came across some stats, and it said that adolescents in sub-Saharan Africa have the highest fertility rates for their age in the world. And this is the category between 10 and 19 years of age, and consequently they face the highest risks when it comes to pregnancy-related mortality. Now, at what age is one considered to be reproductively mature?
So that's a very broad, we call it a simple and an easy question, because it changes with from country to country and region to region.
But in generally,
we usually say when a girl, or let's say an adolescent, starts having her periods, then generally you would assume that ovulation has started. So that can vary. There are others who would probably have what we call early menarche. Basically, the periods come in earlier, and that could be anywhere between 9 and 12 years. And others would be late, what we call late bloomers in quotes. Some might wait till around 16. So that's why you can't quite fix at an age. What would generally be the guide would be, when do the periods start, start coming. And again, when you look at statistics comparing maybe sub-Saharan Africa and maybe Asia and
other European
countries, it's basically based on research. And sometimes we may say that research may be biased, may not be able to completely comprehend all these things. There are many other statistics and other factors that come into play. When you talk about risk, it's not just about age. It could be their capacity to access healthcare services that might say, that might put women in sub-Saharan Africa at a disadvantage in terms of risk.
Okay. Now, looking at also this aspect of maturity, we have seen so many young girls falling pregnant during this time, this COVID-19 time that we are in. And going by the book, by virtue of them having fallen pregnant, one would consider them mature enough, to be able to carry a pregnancy. But from a medical point of view, what else comes into play when it comes to being able to actually carry a pregnancy to full term? What are the aspects that need to be focused on to consider a woman to be mature enough and capable to actually carry a pregnancy to term?
Yeah, so we'd probably say teenage pregnancies would be considered high risk. It's interesting because yes, much as they have the capacity to carry a pregnancy, they do potentially have risks that are slightly higher compared to women who may be 20 years and above. And some of these have to probably bottle down to things like the pelvis. In teenagehood, maybe the pelvis is not fully mature in terms of being able to attain the size to allow a fully grown fetus, to navigate through and be delivered.
Yeah.
So that is one of the issues that come about. We know that some of these young girls get pregnant in unfortunate circumstances. There is also the psychosocial aspect of health, which we cannot ignore. And that might also delay healthcare seeking behavior because they may not have the capacity to access healthcare services in either way because of financial constraints or having stigmatization that comes about with that. So they ideally should be followed up in a facility where possible by an experienced either midwife or nurse or if possible by a doctor, so that they're able to identify any potential risk factors that might come into play during the pregnancy. For instance, blood pressure, that is one of the risks that they have compared to older women. And identify issues that might also cause challenges during the childbirth process and during the labor process, be supported psychologically, be able to have somebody with them, and also be able to identify if there are any challenges that require intervention.
All right. So definitely any young girl, or rather adolescent girl who is expectant, that categorizes them in the high-risk sort of pregnancies. In most cases, they're not.
We would consider them as high risk, yes.
All right. Now, still looking at, reproductive issues. From your experience, just interacting with different patients out there, what are some of those most common reproductive issues that affect many ladies? And this cuts across the ages, as young as 9 to as old as whichever ages. What are some of those common issues that we get to experience as women, reproductively mostly?
Yeah, so I think that is quite a broad question.
Let's start with the one you had mentioned earlier, issues to do with fertility and infertility. And there's a term that you used that rectified my use of terminology.
Yes, I use the term subfertility.
Subfertility, yes.
Technically speaking, we say that infertility or subfertility is what we prefer to use, is the inability to, for a lady of childbearing age, having regular sexual intercourse, unable to get pregnant at least within 12 months or 1 year. Usually it would account to maybe 1 in 3 gynecological consultations that we have, or 3 out of 10 gynecological consultations that we have. Sometimes more depending on the area of practice. But generally, we also have to consider that fertility challenges come about because of many other factors, okay? So generally the trend, as we see, which is, Kenya is probably catching up with the West as well, women are delaying childbearing because of career. And that does have an effect, because we know that anyone who is above 35, we usually notice there's a slight decrease in the fertility potential as they move towards ages of 40. It doesn't go quite low, but it starts kind of like dipping. So we always have to think about whether or not they're having regular cycles, and whether or not they're having tubes that are open, and these are fallopian tubes which actually allow the egg after ovulation to be picked by the tube, and then it would follow through in the fallopian tube and probably meet the sperm and cause implantation. So on the female partner, you would probably be evaluating to see, are there conditions that would affect ovulation? Are there conditions that would affect passage of the egg through the tube or tubal function? And for the male partner, we probably would be assessing whether the sperms are first and foremost present, and whether they are viable and able to swim and meet the egg. But generally, we also know there's a small category. We call it around 4% of out of 100 couples might not have any identifiable cause.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is always the aspect of time that has to be factored in. So it's not that every cycle that a woman will get pregnant. Actually, only 3 out of 10 women, or 1 out of 3 couples, get pregnant in one given cycle. It's only 33%.
33%.
It sounds low, but actually that's true. So time is a factor.
Time is always, and that's, I think, something that most people struggle with. But still on that particular breath of infertility, someone here has requested anonymity, and they're asking, I have 1 child with my partner, but since then I have had 4 miscarriages and my partner refuses to go for a checkup. What could be the issue?
Yes. So this is different. This we're talking about the capacity to get pregnant. Now this is capacity to carry the pregnancy and maintain the pregnancy.
To full term, that is?
To full term.
Okay.
So she may not be having a challenge getting pregnant, but she might have a challenge in, carrying that pregnancy. And we know that there are several conditions that can cause, miscarriages. Some of them might be inherent in the sense that they probably were born with these factors. And some of these might be acquired along the way, either because of disease conditions. So it's always good to have an assessment by a doctor to be able to tease out which are these conditions that might have acquired and what intervention can be done.
Can be done.
Yes.
All right. And then there's also been this back and forth when it comes to fertility and sub-fertility conversations. In most cases, you find that it is the woman who is considered to be I'm trying to pick my words very carefully. In most cases, you find it's the woman who has to go through investigations to understand why, a pregnancy is not coming forth. But when it comes to the probability of it being a 50-50 chance of whether it could be the lady or the man that is actually the reason as to why this couple or this particular partnership, there isn't a child coming forth. What are your thoughts when it comes to such conversations?
I think we have to accept that we are a patriarchal society. So sometimes women actually have borne the brunt of issues regarding fertility and pregnancy, because in essence, actually 3 out of 10 couples trying for pregnancy and having a challenge, there is an issue with the female partner, and that accounts for say 30%. So again, another 3 out of 10. Or 3 out of 10 might be the male partner, where there might be an issue with the sperm and sperm function. And actually 4 out of 10 there might be an issue in both partners. So there's always an issue that sometimes people assume it's one person, but actually you might actually find that both male and female partners do have issues that need to be addressed. So I think at this point in time would actually say it would be wrong to castigate women and say that, fertility or sub-fertility issues, actually, it's actually to do with the female partner. We probably need to accept that there are men who might have challenges, and also create an environment that would encourage men in this context to be able to approach
open conversations.
Yes, open conversations, and also have clinics that are open and have capacity to be able to also welcome them into this discussion and be able to find out what could be the challenge.
So there's a 50-50 chance?
Yes, or actually you might have that both partners, in 40%, both partners would actually have an issue that needs to be addressed.
Does this boil back to this whole issue of genetic compatibility? Modern day conversation that we are seeing in this day and time before couples get married, as they're going for premarital counseling. Some are going to the extent of having some form of genetic mapping done to understand the genetic compatibility.
So genetic compatibility, I probably would say there are people who maybe in their family, there might be history of genetic diseases, and these genetic diseases probably might potentially, affect their children. And a very one that's very simple is probably sickle cell disease. But it's not routine, and it's in very rare instances that you probably might, recommend genetic tests to partners prior to settling down in life. But there are options where sometimes we'd sit down and say we have pre-pregnancy clinics, and we do run them at MPSHA at Waridi Clinic. We usually do run pre-pregnancy clinics where they can come and just say, we are planning to get pregnant, and what are the tests that we need to do just in case we think there might be a genetic issue. We might recommend that they might need some further evaluation prior to that. But these are the rare instances that we do have that. So it's not routine.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you want to go for it as a couple, feel free. services are offered.
Yes.
Now, getting back to where this whole conversation started, when it comes to reproductive issues that so many women get to deal with, that cut across all ages, polycystic ovarian syndrome, that is another condition that so many women struggle with, but you find so many of them come to discover it much later in life. What are some of those signs and symptoms that actually could be pointing to polycystic ovarian syndrome?
Yes, today I feel like we're having a scientific class, but yes.
We are here to learn.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome actually is a condition that's chronic, number one. There is often
We're back. Msiwai tense. This is live TV. Glad you're still with us. We do apologize for that, but just picking up from where you were, what you were explaining to us in regards to polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah, so polycystic ovarian syndrome is a chronic condition, and there are subtle telltale signs that there could be the condition, in a particular patient. So most women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome would complain of irregularity in periods. And actually some of them might have scanty or very few cycles in a year. So in a year. So some might actually say they don't see their periods maybe once or twice, maximum 3 times in a year. So that's something that we probably might, warrant evaluation. So it's always good to have that at the back of our minds. Some women do complain of acne or hair in areas that they do not expect. So those are certain features that would point out to polycystic ovarian syndrome. In others, they might have had an ultrasound done and actually says they are polycystic ovaries. So the ultrasound in itself does not make the diagnosis. It only adds up to the diagnosis, but ideally there should be that history of periods being irregular or scanty or very few cycles in a year. There could be that history of acne or hair in areas that you do not expect, or facial hair, for instance, and that history of probably having polycystic ovaries on ultrasound. So a scan in itself, saying polycystic ovaries, does not make the diagnosis.
All right. And could it also be contributing factor to fertility issues, fertility-related issues?
Yes, it does. And the main reason would be if there are few cycles, reproductive cycles in a year. So that means if they're having 2-3 periods in a year, they're only having ovulation 2 to 3 times in a year. So that means that generally there are months when they're not ovulating. And lack of ovulation is a contribution to fertility issues.
All right. Now, another area that I want us to just quickly jump into, and especially for most women of childbearing age or maturely reproductive age, are issues to do with contraceptive and family planning. Let me start with a message that I've received. There's someone who's asking 6 months after getting the implant and no menses have come and no other side effects for that matter. What could be the reason? Am I safe? Do I have to worry about anything at this particular point?
Yes, so I usually say it's important to ask what are the potential side effects with any method that you for a woman would probably use for contraception. And in this case, an implant would cause the quote-unquote the periods to disappear. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. It's just the way the hormone in the implant works. It works by making the inner lining very thin. The inner lining of the uterus is made very thin. So they might either see very scanty periods or no periods at all. The implant can also, the hormone in the implant might also make the periods become erratic. So that's a side effect, but it is expected. There's nothing harmful about that.
All right. And what of contraceptives that are said to last 3, 5, 7 years? Are they safe to be used especially for women who are already in that childbearing age, and they want to just space out the kids as much as they possibly can. Long-term contraceptives. So long-term contraception, we talk about long-term reversible contraception. And the two main methods, actually three. There is a coil, and there's a hormonal coil, a non-hormonal coil, which is a more common one. The copper IUD, okay, that's a more common one. And there is the implant. So all of them, as the name suggests, are reversible, but long-term. So the copper IUD would last for 10 to 12 years, but there are actually new ones in the market that would last for maybe 3 years, another one for 5 years. There's a hormonal coil called Mirena that actually lasts for 5 years. And the implant that we have, usually there's one called Implanon, one rod that lasts for 3 years, and one with 2 rods that lasts for 5 years. So once these contraceptive devices are long-term, once they're removed, the return to fertility is immediate. And I think there's always that concern that, if I use contraception, sometimes patients usually ask that, is there a possibility that it might, prevent or delay childbearing age? Of all the contraceptive methods that can cause a delay in the return to fertility is the 3-monthly injection called the Depo. All the other methods, the return to fertility is immediate. One would think it would be the other way around. Yes, and I think that's a misconception that we usually always have to address, because as I said, people don't get pregnant in one cycle. It's not 100%, it's 33%. So there's an effect of time. So sometimes people might assume that the delay they are seeing is because of the contraceptive method, while in real sense, actually the delay would have been there, whether the contraceptive method was used or not. Or not. Right. Now, when it comes to back to these children who have fallen pregnant, some of whom have already delivered, putting them on contraceptives and other family planning methods. From a gynecologist's point of view, is this something that you would advise the guardians to actually, a path you would advise the guardians to take for their children to just protect them in a way? Your thoughts? Yeah, so I think this is a question that is raised in many circles. In as much as it's very uncomfortable. Because there is what happens is that there is what the guardian or the parent thinks. But for us as gynecologists, we usually say if a lady is sexually active and they're not keen on pregnancy, they need contraception. So if they are not of age, according to the law in Kenya, then they need an assessment to know, are they cognizant of what they're engaging themselves in, and are they aware of the risks and the consequences? And also offering contraception to them is important, because we always look at it and say, the law would state that somebody might be a minor, but this minor is of sound mind, able to make a decision for themselves. Grown-up decisions, for that matter. However, it is important for us as healthcare workers to, discuss and say, what are the risks that are involved for minors and for people who are not in stable relationships. We usually would recommend, a dual contraception, because of all the methods that are used, the only one that can prevent against, STIs and HIV would be the condom or barrier methods. So we always have to have that discussion. Of course, we would encourage them to come to the clinic and have that discussion, as opposed to getting secondary information that may not be accurate. Yes. So we welcome them to actually have these discussions with us. All right, and finally, as we draw the conversation to a close, when it comes to understanding what works best for you as a woman, whether childbearing or not, but if you have chosen to be sexually active and you want to prevent unexpected pregnancies, understanding what works best for you in line with also looking at any genetic predispositions that you may be having in issues to do with fertility, understanding the right contraceptive for you. Yeah, so we always have to have a discussion in the regards to, how the cycles are. Okay, if there are any gynecological conditions that might be present, and looking at the history in terms of risk, other risk factors that a patient might have. Does age come into play? Age might not necessarily come into play. Okay.
But yes, it does in younger women and in adolescents. We may not give the injection, let's say, because it might affect their bone density. But something like other conditions that we think might be important to, have the back of your minds is, issues like blood pressure, diabetes, and other conditions that may affect the blood vessels. So these are conditions that might not be, you may not put a patient on a certain contraceptive method
yes.
Because of such conditions, maybe hormonal contraception. So there's no one size fits all. You probably would have to have this discussion with the lady and get to know what is in their history that might be a risk and what it is that they would prefer to use. But generally, I say the best method is the one that the woman feels most comfortable with.
All right.
Yes.
Now, there's a question that has come in from a gentleman asking about the everyday pills that women get to take. How safe are they?
So safety, okay, let's start by saying there's a benefit. Because what happens, I think, in this
how you're being politically correct.
Not politically correct, I'll tell you why. Today, if I gave you paracetamol to take, you don't ask me about side effects.
Yes.
You just take a glass of water and swallow the paracetamol.
Side effects be done with.
Yes, but if you actually look at the insert behind, in the paracetamol box, you actually would have side effects, and some are quite severe. But what happens when you talk about contraception, the first thing that goes into the minds of people is side effects.
Yes.
So we usually say there are benefits, first and foremost. For instance, the everyday pill would make the periods regular for those ones who have irregular periods. We can actually use them because they make the periods lighter and less painful. So women with heavier periods and painful periods would actually have benefit from the contraceptive pill. So there's other advantages like, long-term use of the pill would actually reduce the risk of cancer of the uterus and the ovaries.
Oh, wow, okay? I did not know that.
But we're talking about long-term in the sense of maybe 10 years or more. So these are not discussions that are had, in the circles out there. People know side effects. Yes, we know that there are side effects. Just like any other tablet, somebody might get maybe a running stomach or might feel nauseated. They might get some headaches with the pill. So we usually would sit down and have these discussions. But just like any other medication, the side effects tend to reduce with time.
All right.
Why am I saying this? Because at the end of it all, the main discussion is contraception, not side effects. So somebody might run away from a contraceptive method because of the
side effects,
potential side effects. They have not experienced them. They have been told about them. Yet that method would have worked for them. But unfortunately, they take too long to make that decision of using a contraceptive method. And the next time they come to the clinic, they are pregnant.
If you don't prevent, you will have to bear the consequence of your sexual activity. Now, as we truly wind up, someone is asking about the herbal pills that are taken once a month.
Yes, I would not recommend the herbal pill. The reason is it's not been scientifically evaluated to know, first and foremost, what does it have and what amount of hormone does it have. So most women take it because of convenience and cost. They say, it's a 1-month thing. But the issue is, just like any other product in the market, any medication that you take over the counter, and I think Kenyans have come across this over recent times, because now people understand the rigorous nature of having to put medications and vaccines. They have to be tested, there have to be trials. So before a product is put on the market as a contraceptive method, it has undergone rigorous trials, and there are many years of research that has gone into it. So this herbal pill, the only challenge is nobody has the data about it. So how effective is it? We do not know.
Okay.
What potential effects does it have if, let's say, for instance, such a high level of hormone, does it affect other organs of the body? We do not know. Okay. And we've had instances where people have taken herbal medications for many other reasons, which potentially damage the kidney. So we do not know about the herbal medication, and I would not want to comment about
much about it.
I don't have the data on it.
All right, so I believe that answers as many questions as we possibly could address in this particular segment. But then again, issues and conversations revolving around reproductive health, be it for ladies or for gentlemen, are not a one-time conversation. Of course, we cannot fully exhaust this particular one that we delved into today in this one sitting. We're going to be having subsequent discussions still revolving around reproductive issues and different angles and different conditions. But for now, we have to put a cap in regards to this conversation at this particular point. But thank you so much for being with us. We have been speaking with Dr. Charles Morioki, who is a gynecologist working with MP Shah Hospital. Thank you so much for making time to be with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We hope to have you again soon.
Hi, this is Cover Girl Looks with Christine Kuria, and today's episode is all about beauty with a purpose. My guest for today is Wahiga Muteru. She's recovering from alcoholism, and she is a brilliant actress and a writer. You can follow her blog after this. It's so exciting for me to be working with her because I really want to bring back that glamorous girl in her. I can't wait for you guys to see. Wahiga, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me, Christine.
So you've been sober for about 7 months.
Yes.
Wow, congratulations, Wahiga.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure it's not been easy. Can you please tell us more about how you started?
I started drinking heavily when I was about 19 years old. So that was my second year in university. And yeah, I loved the taste of alcohol. I loved the effect. Alcohol and myself reacted very well together.
Okay.
In the sense that it numbed me emotionally. Whatever pain, if I was uncomfortable, if I was shy, it cancelled all that out and I was able to escape.
What was it that actually drove you to drinking? Because sometimes it could be an emotional thought or emotional feelings. What was your reason? And I'm sure some people would say the devil made me do it.
Yeah. I guess the devil made me do it, but in my own voice. Because the basic line was I enjoyed drinking. I loved the effect. That's why I was constantly chasing the high, because of the relief that alcohol gave me. I loved it. I was actually the ringleader in terms of my friends and getting alcohol. I was very inquisitive as a kid, so I looked for it. That's how I got to, and I used to go to parties that, in which people were drinking and stuff as a teenager.
When did you decide to get help?
First, I didn't decide to get help. No, I had no intention on stopping drinking. I had no intention on sobering up. Never was that my intention. I'd rather die before that happened. Literally. Because I attempted suicide 2 times before that. When it really hit me that I was an alcoholic, or I internalized it, was the 21st of February last year. And I'd had another binge, another relapse. And it had gone on for 5 days. And so this was the second day of now the hangover. And I was sitting at home and, no one was talking to me. I wasn't talking with anyone. And I felt so miserable. And I was wondering, what has brought me all these problems? I'd just been sexually assaulted as a result of, drinking to the point that, you have a blackout. You don't know who's taking you home or where. And so, that happened. And I just wondered what had happened to my life. And for a moment of realness in the past, I think 8 years or 6 years, I just I think God spoke to me in that moment, and I came to the own conclusion, like by myself, I think I'm an alcoholic. And I just felt instant relief, and I was like, okay, why are all these things happening to me? What is the problem? And prior to that, it had never been the alcohol. It had been, it's this person, it's because of this, it's because of that.
And now that you have been sober, I am so happy for you. What are your plans for the future?
First of all, thank you so much, Christine, for giving me this opportunity, and also this opportunity to speak about alcoholism, because a lot of people out there suffer from this and they feel like there's no hope.
Exactly.
There is hope. I'm living proof of it.
Yes.
So for now, we've just started a business with my mom, which is amazing. It's called Gourmet Granola. So we actually custom bake granola for our clients.
Nice.
Moreover than anything, I'm beginning to have a relationship with my mom, which was never possible in the past. Over this past 4 months, we have grown so much together. In our friendship, I can actually say, my mom's my ride or die.
Oh, nice.
You know, she's a good friend of mine, and she's so interested about alcoholism and how it affects families, and getting to know us as alcoholics and what it all means. It's amazing what it's done for us. So I'm focusing on that business with my mom.
That's good.
And working my program that's helping to keep me sober.
Okay. Yeah. As of now, what I'm giving to you is this cover girl look. You are that lady who deserves the best, and you deserve to love yourself. You're beautiful, you're amazing, and what you've gone through is just something that is going to help a lot of people. For me, my mandate is to actually make women look good so that they can feel good about themselves. And I think in turn, they will definitely do good.
That's exactly the point in life I'm at right now. The self-love journey. Because when you've been drinking as much as I have, there's a lot of self-love and, nourishing yourself that just falls to the wayside. And starting to build myself up and feeling good about myself from the inside out, and realizing that nothing external can really make me happy. I've chased that for so long. Is the key. So thank you. Really, I appreciate this. This is like step one.
Oh, nice. I'm so glad that I can be able to contribute to this journey. So I think we're going to start with your hair, and then we'll move on over from there.
Cool.
Wahiga's story is very inspiring. I decided to give her that cover girl look so she can bring her confidence back, and a look that she can fall in love with herself all over again.
Today, our cover model is Wahiga Mutero. Gaia Nairobi provided the hair for her. I wanted her to feel as confident and as feminine as possible, so we provided her with the hair for this shoot. And Gaia Nairobi is all about women empowerment. I really hope she loves her final look.
I am so excited for her first look. I went for a curly, shoulder-length hairstyle that gave her that soft, feminine look. Wahiga, it's been such a pleasure to give you this beautiful makeover. You are so amazing, and I'm sure you'll go places. And I think from today, the acting should really pick up, because, girl, you look amazing.
Thank you so much, Christine. I can't wait to see it.
Okay, don't wait any longer. 1, 2, 3, and... Don't wait any longer. 1, 2, 3, and...
Wow.
You look gorgeous. What do you think?
I mean, I love it. Where do I begin? The eyes, the hair, my nose looks so sharp. I mean, wow, it just, and the dress, everything just looks so good.
I think you're now ready for a new acting role.
Yes.
Which one do you want? Let's prophesy.
Well, Wakanda's gone, so...
Yeah, maybe Waganda.
Oh.
To match with the soft hair for her makeup, I went for something shimmery I wanted her skin to glow and look very youthful. How do you feel?
Thank you so much, Christine, first of all. I feel amazing. I don't think I've ever looked this good.
How was your experience like going through the whole transformation?
Well, first of all, you guys didn't make me see a mirror in like 6 hours.
Yes.
So the torture was unbearable. But wow, I mean, having the hair done, having the whole makeup done, you guys were so thorough and detailed-oriented. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And the clothes fit perfectly, thank you. So do the shoes. Yeah, and finally when I saw and had the reveal, wow.
I think this hair just makes you look so regal.
Yeah, some elegance, you know, some bounce.
Is it a look that you could have chosen yourself?
Definitely it's out there with the makeup. I've never done makeup this much or, you know, the bronze and everything. So definitely by my own, I don't think so, but I love it.
So it's all about the glow and adding more glow. And I can't wait for you to try the second outfit because this was very like extra with the bling and all that.
Yeah.
With the next outfit, it's toned down, simple, classic black velvet dress. Are you ready to try on the next one?
Yes, I am.
Cool. The second look was more classical with a beautiful black velvet dress. For her makeup, I gave her a bright red lipstick to bring out that strong character in her. I hope this show inspires you. If you're going through addiction or a traumatic ordeal, there is always a second chance for everyone, and it's never too late to put yourself together so that you can bring out the best in you. Until next time, thank you for watching Cover Girl Looks with Christine Kuria.
Bayern Munich hopes to get past Holstein Kiel on Wednesday the 13th of January in their second round matchup of the DFB Cup as they seek to defend their title.
Alaba! Brilliant free kick from the Austrian!
It's another must-watch match you cannot afford to miss on Wednesday the 13th of January from 10:45 p.m. live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu